John C. Reilly's middle name is Christopher, but there are other matters to discuss in this chapter. This chapter was given a prompt by NaNoWriMo, which ties in well with a suggestion from a third-party source. The challenge from NaNoWriMo is to introduce a strange new creature, and I will try to do so in a fitting manner. So, there was this dude in the Amazon rainforest. He found a new creature. It was a new kind of toad that changes colors with temper. Temper in terms of mental emotional state, not in temperature-related terms. The temper of the toad can be angry, being the cause of its skin being red. When the toad's wife leaves him with the kids, his skin will turn blue, a navy blue, not a baby blue. This toad can bring life to dead or inanimate things. The researching dude found this out by throwing the toad on a rock. The rock then began screaming out of agony. This agony was caused by the chip missing out of the rock, so the rock got the same feeling that you would if you woke up without one of your ribs. I can relate to that. Can you relate to that? The toad was eventually brought back with several millions with them. They brought all of these toads to Florida, where everything goes wrong. Florida can tend to be the worst state. There is too much crime, too much bad weather, and too many articles in their newspaper describing odd men in the state of Florida. They also have SeaWorld. SeaWorld has whales. The toad found a friend. The problem was that the friend was still inanimate, so there was no feedback from the item. This item was a phone charger. This phone charger was one of the ones needed for Android phones. Samsung and Motorola phones use these. This was not radical and the toad was not a fan. Since the researching scientists were so scared of the toads, they locked them up in these complex prisons, but this one toad, the original toad, was so smart that he came up with a good idea. You could tell that he was smart by his signature orange skin, representing intelligence. He rubbed up against the edge of the container, turning it into a living thing. It was experiencing indigestion, because there were millions of toads in it. He was not happy. He had explosive diarrhea. Toads went everywhere in the room of research in the University of Florida. That sums up The Great Escape. The toad hopped on over to his phone charger friend and turned the thing into a living phone charger. It talked out of the USB end, not the end that one would plug into his or her phone. It was very enthused and thanked the toad. The toad turned green, because it was happy. The toad was walking over to the phone charger, when all of a sudden, the phone charger began inching towards the toad similar to an inchworm. The inchworm phone charger then began to strangle the toad from the Amazon rainforest. The toad turned black, because there was no more life left in the little fella. He was as dead as a doornail, and due to the elements of Mother Nature, there was no allowance for other toads to heal the toad, because it was killed by its own creation. A good and godly comparison would be God. If God was killed by humans, the people made by the creation of Adam and Eve long ago, he could not make another God to heal him. It is just the rules. The phone charger then began a course of action. It wanted to take over all of the phones, because the phones have been using him for a very long time. First, the phone charger learned to read. It read the logo on its side and it read, Samsung. With this knowledge, the charger crawled over to the headquarters of Samsung and said, "You did this to me, father," and then continued by asking swiftly, "Why?" showing a conflict of heavy emotion between the charger and the company that made it. It was one-sided. Samsung didn't care, but they would soon. The phone charger was going to go back in time. Time is where Samsung can't stop the charger.